Welcome back to the channel. I am attempting to do a cost breakdown for the V8 swap and the 300ZX, and I am trying a program that I have never used before, and it does things and it don't do things, and it seems like it's gonna do things, and then I hit record and it no longer lets me do the things. So I'm just gonna use my desktop here for what I need. And I started looking this stuff up, and I'm like, you know what? Spending all this time looking it up, why don't I just do it on camera instead of just putting it all on a note sheet here and just being like, here's what it cost. So it all started, my buddy Daniel with the F100. We were drifting, and I was having a lot of problems with the V6 in my car. And eventually we solved the problems we were having, but then the timing bolt broke. The timing tensioner bolt broke, and he was just like, man, just put a V8 in that thing. I got a transmission. So it all started there, and he said he'd give me a transmission on a good deal. And so I bought some headlights for trade, and these here are the headlights. So just these are the headlights here. I'll go ahead and fit that to screen. Bought these headlights for Daniel's truck, and of course they cost $140.40. So that was what started it all. I bought this in trade for a T5 transmission and a 71 bell housing. So we could start off by our note list over here. We're gonna put on headlights / transmission. And those were $140.40. And the day after I bought those headlights, Daniel was like, let's go to a junkyard and look for a 302. So we went to our local junkyard. I think we went to a couple ones first, but it happened to be the closest one to me. We walked in, we started looking at cars, and the owner of the junkyard come up and he was like, hey, what are you guys looking for? And I was like, well, I want a 302, but I see something over there at your front gate that looks a lot like a Ford motor, Ford small block. And he's like, yeah, that's a 351. I'll give it to you for $300 and it guaranteed to run. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with more displacement. So I told the owner of the junkyard, I was like, I'll be back tomorrow with $300. So I had a Steam Deck, and I posted it on Facebook for sale, and I got a couple hits that night. Somebody said, yeah, they gave me $300 for it. So I met him in the parking lot of the junkyard. He gave me $300 cash for the Steam Deck. I walked inside, gave him $300 for the motor, and that was the motor. So we'll go ahead and list over here, engine for $300. So far we are in $440.40. I hope my keyboard isn't too close to my microphone here. We'll just have to deal with it if it is. So far we have a motor and transmission for $440. My first thought was, well, I need to get that motor into the car. And those were $68.03. I welded those in myself using Daniel's welder. I originally did not buy these. I bought some motor mounts. I believe it was for an older small block. I paid $120 for those and realized that they weren't going to work at all. They didn't even fit the mounting style for the engine I had. So I ended up landing on these. I'm not going to include the $120. So far, we've got these mounts here that are currently installed into the 300ZX, and they were $68.03. I believe that is going to be $508.43. So far, with just the engine, the transmission, and the motor mounts, it's $508.43. So the next thing that I bought, I have a screenshot of a complete order here from Jegs. and I have not bought anything from Jegs in a while, and I'll probably go over why that is in this video. So, I have a screenshot of an order from Jegs here, with the cam, the clutch, the flywheel, the head gaskets, and the head studs. Right now, I'm more worried about the flywheel and the clutch. So I did get a McLeod clutch, the Street Pro clutch for the Ford 351 and 302 for $355. Excuse me there, $663.43. So just with the clutch, it's $663 so far. And then the flywheel was $132.99. And I did want to buy a brand new clutch and flywheel. I didn't want to have to take the transmission out, in and out several times. Wanted it to be reliable. I got a known good brand. I'm going to pull out this handy dandy calculator right here. So $663.43 plus $132.99 equals $796.42. Man, this is probably going to hurt my feelings before I'm done. But, about the clutch, the flywheel, of course at the same time about head gaskets, head studs. I really could have gone without the head gaskets, but I guess head gaskets would have been a thing that, on a 20-year-old motor, you probably should have replaced anyways. I did buy a Mustang motor mount. I have not found a receipt for that. I can't remember where I bought that from. But I want to say I paid about $60 for that, so it was a transmission mount, and I did weld that transmission mount to the 300ZX subframe. So I didn't pay for the subframe, so I'm just going to go ahead and type here trans mount. I'll just say $60 for now. Equals $856.42 so far. And there was several things that I bought for it that I didn't end up using. Didn't really need. I was just buying things left and right. I really wanted to get that motor in. I didn't have to wait for something I maybe needed. So, I'm not really going to calculate in welding it in, but, you know, the welding probably jacked up the power bill $60. I had to buy a spool of wires. I think that was around $55 to weld the exhaust and the motor mounts in. I did get the exhaust for free. I worked for U-Haul, of course, and I went to our shop where we have several wrecked U-Hauls, and they all have 3-inch pipe, so I went and cut some pipe out from under a wrecked U-Haul. They just chop them up and throw them in dumpsters anyways. They take everything usable. But I did buy V-bands, and I do have a receipt for V-bands, they were fairly expensive. So let's find these V-bands here. I bought 6 V-bands, haven't completely finished the exhaust yet, but we have a receipt for $71.27 for V-bands. The headers and the intake that I bought off Facebook Marketplace, not the intake gaskets, so I got a lot of gaskets. V-bands were $71.27, and so far, what I have remembered, we are in the whole $927.69. I'll go ahead and throw the headers in there. I got the headers for a good deal. I got a 302 intake. I got the headers and a bunch of intake and exhaust gaskets, all for $100. So we'll just go ahead, and so far with the headers, we are in $1,027.69. Alright, so, of course, needed an alternator to run that, and then I needed the correct pulley to line up with the alternator I was going to use. It is a Miata alternator on there. The pulley was 5611, so go ahead and put crank pulley. Got that on eBay for $56. I only wanted to run the alternator, so I got the very specific one. Actually, it was the only one that I found like this, and I haven't seen any others like this, but I want to believe it's a Fox body pulley. So we'll go ahead and add that pulley to our list here. 5611, and there's a cat that is playing with the wires on my computer. Hey man, you need to chill out. Play with the sock or something. So we'll add that 5611, and now we are at $1,083.08. So it doesn't look horrible yet. I did originally buy a carburetor for like $400. I got a used Holly Brawler, but I did buy the Aces. The Aces, I couldn't find an actual order, but I did find a loan statement, because I did affirm that. So in all actuality, I was paid roughly $1,200 for a $979 setup. So that's going to make it jump right there. Not necessarily needed, but it did come with the distributor. It did come with the coil pack. It came with the throttle body. Came with the ECU. So I did have to buy a throwout bearing. So we got a throwout bearing here. It comes with the hydraulic throwout bearing. Came with the snout to mount it on. Came with a nice little line there. That was $285.11. And that was 285, 11, 13, 68. I feel like I spent more money between the engine and the transmission than I did on the engine and the transmission. So 1368.91. Or let's type in Willwood. But I did buy this master cylinder here at $77.36. And that was, well, how much was that again? That was $77.36. That's so far. Now we are sitting at $1,446.27. Okay, there we go. RB Factory, I found it. Yes, now I can screenshot this one. I guess I did pay more than I thought for that with the shipping. But I did have to adapt that Willwood master cylinder. That was all in total $64. Not as good at math. I know I'm not good at math, so that's the reason I have this calculator here. There was a clutch line going from the master cylinder to the throwout bearing, and I want to say I paid about $125. It's a high quality, real reputable shop in town made it for me. We're just gonna leave it at an even 100 for now. Man, my throat is getting dry. I've been doing a lot of talking. I'm sorry. Alright, so we got the clutch line, we got the throwout bearing, we got the master cylinder. So that alternator bracket, I did buy two of these as well. I bought one for a 302 and it worked for a while, but that bolt there that bolts into the head didn't line up with the head, and I just kind of had it bolted to the bracket itself, and it flexed and it kept throwing off the belt. So I did buy another one. So the alternator bracket was $88.56. 16, 10, 27 plus 88.56 equals 1698.83, and that was 113.03. Timing chain, and that was 113.03. Spark plugs, and that was $20.48. To make it run in the car with no maintenance, no upgrades, so far we're sitting at $1,700. Could have been a little bit cheaper had I used the carburetor. I had a Mega Squirt at the time I could have made the distributor work with. I will say something about Chinese-made intakes. The runners do not match the head. They're off by like 3 or 4 millimeters. Paid $140 for this intake here. Go ahead, intake, I guess, because that was needed for the swap. I could have ran it on the original fuel injection with the mega screw, but I wasn't trying to have all the wires. The Aces kit that I had, it just looked so good. It came pre-wired. All I had to do was plug it in, plug power in, plug the fuel pump in, plug a couple other things here and there in. So intake was 140, 28, 1839.11. Alrighty, like I said, I did get a whole bunch of gaskets. I got carburetor gaskets, I got intake gaskets. I made a gasket for the coolant neck. That was all right here in the headers. Drive shaft. I did buy several different U-joints. I ended up having a U-Haul dealer that I work with, works for me. He ended up cutting down a drive shaft that was in the car. Actually, when I got the red 300ZX that I just got running, I took the manual transmission that was originally in my car and I put it in the red car, but it came with an automatic drive shaft, which the newer cars actually came with a beefier diff yoke and beefier U-joints. So I preferred to use that one on the V8 anyways. But I did have to buy a bunch of U-joints for that. So that would absolutely have to have. Definitely have to have a drive shaft to move. Bought two of these at $16.99. $33.98. I got lucky with the drive shaft. I know a lot of times you're going to pay someone anywhere between $60 to $120 just to cut a drive shaft and stick the same yoke on the end of it and weld it back in. A T-bucket drive shaft, because when I did my measurements, and this is how I know I'm not good at math, I kind of measured the yokes on each end of the drive shaft, and then I measured the difference between input shaft to the yoke or the flange on the diff, and then I kind of took off what I thought would have been the yoke length. I want to say it was like 2 inches too short, and the input shaft didn't go all the way into the transmission. So U-joints were $38.98. And so far we're sitting at $1,907.07. When I took that motor apart, I ended up putting head studs in it, new head gaskets. Oh yeah, I took the heads to a machine shop, and he gave me a pretty sweet deal. He decked them, he cleaned them, he installed the valve springs, all for $325. I gave him the little piece of paper that came with the cam that had the install height, and he filled it all out for me, and I believe he did a really good job on them. That was after I spent, I think, 3 weeks porting them. I gasket matched them, and I bought carbide bits, and I got 2 metal shavings in my eye 2 separate times out of the 3 weeks. That was horrible. So wear your safety glasses. Safety glasses are always good. I won't count the man hours, but I put a lot of time porting those heads. So far, just to make it run with no maintenance, no upgrades, we're looking at $1,907.07. The cam was $182. I got it on clearance, and there's a good reason I got it on clearance. Trying to find valve springs that work with that cam. Let's just say I ordered 3 sets of valve springs. One was indefinitely on back order. The second was indefinitely on back order, and I eventually had to go to paid $182.95 for that cam. That cam sounds pretty rowdy. I like it. For the valve springs, I did end up going to eBay because eBay was the only place that I could find the rated springs for these cams. I paid $128 for these valve springs that came with the keepers, that came with the retainers. They seem to work good so far. I know eBay and cheap metal and stuff like that, cheap Chinese metal. Story on the valve springs. I ordered two sets of valve springs from Jegs, and they ended up canceling one order, which was, wasn't that big a deal. But I ordered a second order. I ordered these. Well, I definitely did not order them in July, but I still have not received them. I definitely ordered these probably around July, even earlier than July 2024. Trying to get a refund on these springs is almost impossible. If you call to make an order, Jegs will answer right away. Of course, sitting on hold for 45 minutes is just almost impossible. But I called them back, and then that number just kept going up, because I remember the number was like almost tolerable at first, so like 30 to 45 minutes, and I called them back a couple days later, and it's like it's 120 minutes, and then I called them back a few days later, and it's like, oh, it's a 3-hour on hold wait time, and it's like trying to get a hold of them to get this resolved. That was the last thing I'd ever ordered from Jeg. I've got a feeling I'll never see that again. Just don't order from Jegs is all I can say. Summit's pretty good. Summit's got some fast shipping, I'll tell you that much. But maybe I'll get those in, and maybe I can turn around and sell them, because they are the part number for that cam, specified for that cam. And if anybody buys one of those cams on clearance, they're going to be like, hey man, maybe I could scalp these. No, I wouldn't scalp them. I'd probably sell them at a loss, to be honest with you. So I got the rocker arms here. They're pretty nice. They look good. I paid $343.60. Those look pretty good. I think though I have a video of those, installing those. Head gaskets, head stud. The head gaskets were $80.99. The head studs were $142.99. And head work, $325. So far, I think I have the majority of everything here. If you have any other questions about something that you've noticed on there, lifters. I couldn't find the receipt for the lifters. Pretty sure I paid about $100. We can come down here, type lifters. $100. They were brand new. They were the part number for that cam. I tried to put, they came with a piece of paper that said recommended part numbers, and that's what I tried to order. Had the worst time trying to order those springs. So let's go ahead. I'll do some math here. Going to break $3,000, especially with the head work down there. So far, with everything that I can remember, is that everything that I can remember that I've bought, there's probably, of course, there's fluids, there's tools. I think I broke my snap-on ratchet, and I ended up seeing a snap-on truck, because now that I don't actually work at a shop, I don't get visited by a snap-on truck anymore. But I saw a snap-on truck in a parking lot one day, and man, I pulled up and I'm like, hey, my ratchet's broken. And he sure enough fixed it. So I really appreciate that guy. That was almost a year ago. I can't remember who it was. I still see the truck driving around all the time. But one reason I love buying Snap-on, it might be the same as Harbor Freight, but if it breaks, they're going to give you a new one, which is probably going to be even cheaper made than the one you originally bought. I still have the same Snap-on ratchet that I bought when I was in tech school, probably 10 years ago now. And as my teacher said, that ratchet just makes me money. I'm trying to think of anything else that I may have forgotten. I think I have the majority of everything, especially for the basic swap with no upgrades and no maintenance. just to get the motor in the car running and driving. Looking at $1,907.07. Of course, I don't pay anybody to work on my stuff. I'm lucky to have Daniel to come help me work on my stuff, and other friends that occasionally come help me work on my stuff. So can't really factor in labor, and I'm probably missing something here or there. Like hardwares. I know I had to buy hardware for the intake manifold. I had to buy them twice actually. But so far, just as a quick breakdown, I've probably been doing this for a hot minute now. Oh yeah, I'm 52 minutes in. Not horrible. I'll probably chop some stuff out of here. But just for the basic motor swap, no upgrades, we're looking at $1,907.07. And then after falling into the rabbit hole, it bumps me up to $3,344. I can only imagine if I tried to do a breakdown of the entire car, of every dollar that I've ever put into there. I'm pretty good at finding good deals. The suspension on the car, I do kind of want to show that off a little bit right quick because I love finding good deals. I did buy a set of wheels for my Volkswagen on here. I bought fuel injectors, 1000cc fuel injectors, which I'm currently using 4 of them in my Volkswagen. Alright, so here we go. I paid $276 for some BC Racing coilovers. I thought that tickled the fancy out of me. Because let's just look and see how much these coilovers cost. Now they are technically not for my car, but I ended up spending some more money. Let's see. So these coilover here, any of these typical coilovers are $1,000, $1,195, and as you can see right here, I have a receipt for $272.26. I think I bought the weld-on coilover adapters for a 280Z, and because they require weld-on, I think I paid $80 for those, and then I paid a welding shop that's local. I think they welded them on for $50. I got some photos if I can find them. And then I bought the rear perches. I think I paid $80 for them. So if you add 80, and 50, 272 plus 80 plus 80 plus 50. So I've got BC Racing coilovers on my 300ZX for the price of about $500. So I was super happy about that. I like finding deals. Of course, I did build the motor that's in my 300ZX. It's got a busted transmission in it right now. Like spending money on here, but I appreciate you guys coming to check me out. I'm probably going to take this recording here, I'm going to put it on my video editing. I'm probably going to try to throw, well, I've got every photo I can need, but I do want a thumbnail of all my receipts on one page. I got to figure that out right quick. I'm probably going to chop some garbage out of here. I hope my face is in the circle. It looks like the circle is here, but I know my face has been over here a lot. But that's the breakdown of the V8 swap on my 300ZX. I appreciate you coming to check me out. If you would like to see any other videos, if you would like to do any sim racing with me, if you just want to hang out and chat while I do sim racing, please leave a comment, let me know, and we will see you next time.